The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone. This is Daniel Wagner from Your Internet Buddies, and I am really excited because tonight is a special night. This is not a traffic webinar. This is not how to make money online. This goes to the core of our beings. This talks about your life purpose. And I was really amazed and impressed how many of you, how many of my subscribers and valued customers and everyone who knows me have responded to this message. And this is really a special webinar. I've never before, in those 6 years I've been working online, run a purpose webinar, a spiritual webinar, something that is very close to my heart. Many of you know my background, know that I've spent many years in self-development and tried to get to what really is behind our striving. People say, I want more money, I want more time, and many times once they've achieved it, they realize there is still an empty hole in their hearts or in their lives, the lack of purpose or meaning. And I have a very special person on the call tonight who will be giving us at least an hour of his valuable time sharing some key insights. But before we go there, let me just quickly check. Can you hear me well? Can you see a screen? So can you just say hello or yes in the question box to let me know that you can hear me? Okay, so we got Melanie and Leslie, David, Phil, Grant, Amer, Oliver. Hey, Oliver Stefan from Germany, from Munich. Hey, liebe Grüße nach München, ne, Oliver. Oh, it's nice. It's nice to see some old friends on here. Wow. Thank you, guys. Mr. Phil Turner. Hey, Bridget O'Sullivan. It's lovely to have you on the call as well. Lovely greetings to Sunny Island, hopefully Sunny Island. John Child, Dawn, Joanna, brilliant. Sarah Mallet, good evening. It's great. Wow. Great to have so many of you on the call. So it's great. It's important you can hear me well, and I want you to really pay attention. More than on any other webinar tonight, I want to make sure you have no distractions. So if there is anything around you that can switch off, apart from your computer, obviously do it now. Switch off your phone, switch off Skype, and take a notepad out, please, or a piece of paper so you can take some notes when Richard talks us through some of the process. So without any further ado, I want to make sure we get the most out of our guest speaker, our guest star tonight. I want to welcome Richard Jacobs to the call. Richard, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
I'm very well, Richard, very well. Thank you so much for making the time and taking a day out of your busy schedule. We've been going back and forth the last few days, preparing for tonight, and I've been feeding back the questions that people have been asking even before the webinar. So how was your first impression when you got those questions from hard-nosed internet marketers? How did
Just
that?
fantastic questions. You know, what strikes me, I love them, and I was going through and I was thinking, well, I'd like to tick this one, answer that, and tick this, and then I just went and just a big tick and tick them all. You know. They're all
Excellent,
great questions.
excellent.
But you know what strikes me more than anything is that these are not questions from internet marketers or corporate people or non-corporate people. They're questions from people who want to find answers to some serious and significant questions,
Mm, mm.
and they're people who search and want to find, and that's what struck me.
Definitely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the reason why you're here tonight, Richard, is because I have spent years of my life exploring different avenues and strategies. And when Guy, who's a good friend of mine, Guy Fisher, he's part of our Inner Circle Mastermind group. I know him for years now. We worked in property together. He started talking about this Richard Jacobs person. He sent me a book, and the book was on my shelf for a time, and he kept nudging me and said, "Come on, you got to do this. You got to read this." And when I finally did, I was very touched and moved by uh, just the result what came out for me. It's a very personal experience, of course, and I'm very happy with what was the outcome for me. So I just thought it would be really awesome because many people look at my life and think, I got everything because I have the time, the lifestyle, the money, the business that many people want. Yet I still needed something more. You need to know why you do that, and I really believe that you have done that for me better than anybody else through any other process. So I want
Thank
to
you.
literally clear the stage now for you, Richard, and let you run the show for a bit. And I will mute myself and let anyone enjoy the presentation.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Listen, hello, everybody. I can't see you, but I know that you're there. Thank you very much for joining this evening. It's a real pleasure, this. You know, purpose is my favourite subject because I think it's the most important one. So I'm just kind of delighted to spend that time talking to you and talking about it. So we've got about an hour together, and what I want to do is over the first half an hour or so, just run through what this purpose process is all about and why it's important and what people can expect to get from it. What are the common, consistent experiences? And then I'd like to look through, you know, what's coming up and how you can take part and how you can do it. And then take questions, if possible, through the chat box later and look at some of these fantastic questions that have been sent through. And just see how far we get with that. So let's click something here. There you go. So you should be now seeing a slide which says, "Why listen to me?" Which is a good question to ask on a Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock. And then there's a picture of moi on the top right-hand corner with dodgy goatee beard. That was one of the questions, actually. Why on earth have you still got that dodgy goatee? So I'll deal with that on a little bit later. So why listen to me? Well, I designed and created the What's Your Purpose program. The What's Your Purpose program is a process that people can do online, 7 questions to find out what their purpose is in life. I wrote the book, What's Your Purpose, as well. So I spent a lot of time thinking about this question, what's your purpose? And I want to explore that, obviously, later. I work with lots of different organizations. I've trained over 100,000 people around the world. And I've trained people from Google and Procter & Gamble and McKinsey and people who work with the UN and charities. I've also done work with governments and other bodies. I'm starting to work with Coca-Cola and people like that now. But when I set up my business, I set up my business to create a change, to have an impact on the world. And so where that led me was working with people across the board. I call it Robin Hood commerce, which is basically, charge the bigwigs, the head of the food chain in the corporate world, top dollar, so that you can charge much less or nothing for people, for charities, for Oxfam, for the World Wildlife Fund, for people in sustainability, etc. And so training all these people, 100,000 people, from the Mercedes management people billing, £1 million, $1 million a year, through to people who can't read and write, has taught me a couple of things. And I found that what I've done is I've honed and refined a whole load of exercises to help people become much more effective in their lives, but much more fulfilled at the same time. These two things have to go together as far as I'm concerned. And I found that the same triggers exist for people regardless of their educational background. So if you're heading up a big organization and you're being paid a fortune, or if you're just about holding down a job and can't pay a rent and you're earning 150 quid a week, the same things make us tick. And I've devoted my life, I guess, certainly my professional life, to finding out what those things are that make us tick and how we access them, and then how we flick the switch so that we're on. And this work, this purpose work, is a result of a lot of that. So, somebody said I'm a kind of a pioneer in personal development. I think I'm a bit of a maverick, really, but I don't think that what I do is, I think what I do is I ask simple core questions and I'm determined to find the answers to them. It's always amazed me that this question, what's your purpose, that I've grown up, I'm 43 years old, nobody's ever asked me that question before. I'm amazed when I think about it now that I went through the whole of my life at school, through every piece of work that I ever did, and nobody ever asked that question. I mean, has anybody been asked that question at school? What's your purpose? What are you really about? What's really important to you? What's the most fundamentally driving and motivating factor in your life? What could lead to an outstanding, extraordinary, and exhilarating existence? Or do they say, what do you want to do for a job? Which of those two questions turns the lights on? So I ask simple questions, and then by hook or by crook, I find an answer to them. And I try and make sure that the way of finding the answer is fun. So let's have a look at this question. What's your purpose? I think it's the most important question we can ask ourselves in a lifetime. I mean, if you look at any form, I'm guessing if you've tuned into this, then you're into personal development of one form or another. Yes, it's a lot around internet marketing, but a lot of people who are interested in making those businesses online are doing it because they want more time. They want to free up more time for themselves, and they want to pursue other things as well as doing the online businesses. What they're looking for, I think, is a sense of freedom, a sense of empowerment. Why else would people be looking for abundant wealth, actually, apart from to feel more empowered and obviously to have a more comfortable lifestyle, but fundamentally to have more choice? So we've got choice about the most important things in life, which is who we are, what our essence is, and what it wants to express. So I think this question, what's your purpose, is the most important question we can ask ourselves, because what's the alternative? We never ask it, and then what do we find out? We live life without purpose. That's aimless. I was amazed the other day, somebody said to me, they were talking about career and making career choices. And he pointed out to me that the word career doesn't mean a straight path that we've defined for ourselves. I've got a career and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and we make plans and we execute, and this is the path that we take. Career literally means out of control. The car careered across the road, the rock careered around the passage, etc. It means completely out of control, out of focus. So on one level, most of our lives are geared towards doing something which is completely out of control. What controls it? What brings it into a place, a path of best fit, into something where every action we take, every choice we make is our highest choice? Somebody once said that there was a piece of research done to discover how many thoughts we have in a day, and apparently we have between 60 and 100,000 different thoughts every day. I have no idea who counts them. So 60 to 100,000 different thoughts every day, but we change only about 2% of the nature of those thoughts on a daily basis. 98% of the thoughts we have on a day-to-day basis are pretty much the same. Okay, so then if we're going to graph that, we say, okay, 100,000 thoughts, how many of those are really in line with the things that most turn us on? 50%? 60%? 30%? If it's 50%, that means we're binning half our life. We're effectively saying, half my life is not very important. Well, if you live to be 80, that's 40 years down the drain. If I live to be 100, that's 50 years down the drain. Maybe 60, maybe we're really lucky, maybe we're an exception, maybe 60% of our life is really important, maybe 60% of our life really turns us on. That's still 40% down the drain. You know, would you do your weekly shopping, take 40% of it, and throw it away on your way into the house? If we wouldn't do it with our food, why would we do it with our life? So, what's your purpose for me? Says, if I could measure my life on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 is the ultimate experience of life, rock and roll, the roller coaster of life, it doesn't get any better than this. 1 is, I got a pulse. How much of my life is 8 and above? And for me, when we live on purpose, and it's the consistent feedback I get from people who go through the program, is they start to make choices, 60 to 100,000 thoughts a day. They start to make choices about their life which are 8 and above. That's our best. And we make our best our norm. So then what does that lead to? What's the experience of life that people have? Well, one experience of life is that people become much more fulfilled. They're much happier, much more joyful. They laugh more. They listen better. Those are kind of incidental behaviors. They make plans. They're bolder. They have a sense of courage and conviction in their life. They do it not because they're trying to overcome fears, just because they quietly accept something which drives them as being true. They improve their relationships. They start businesses. Do they become more wealthy? Pretty much, yes. I've never known anybody who's become less wealthy. I find that if wealth is important to people when they're on their purpose, they improve it. My story was that I was delivering training seminars to 12 people at a time, and I was good at it, and I was making a nice, tidy income. I did my purpose. I found my purpose. It took me a while, because there was no roadmap for me, so I had to do it myself, and I did, and it took me a couple of years, but I nailed it. And when I nailed it, literally, almost overnight, I got offered the opportunity to run seminars for 10,000 people. I went from 12 people to 10,000 people, virtually overnight. Did that make a difference to my bank account? Absolutely it did. But you know what? It made a much bigger difference to that than that, because working for those 10,000 people meant that I was serving my purpose, and it meant I was serving my purpose 8, 9, 10 out of 10, and nothing could be more fulfilling than that. So wealth, yes, but that's not the whole story. It was only just a part of it. So then this question here, how does purpose affect the world? I think I kind of want to deal with that a little bit later, towards the end of the seminar, if that's okay. And then we're going to have some time for Q&A. So this is the question, isn't it? Really? Purposeless or purposeful? Purposeless or purposeful? And what's the bridge? What's the gap between the two? If we've never been asked the question, what's our purpose before, how do we find a way to it? I read loads of self-development books, self-improvement. I went in courses. I did things from the healing arts, spirituality, martial arts, yoga, shamanism. I did business development, personal development. You name it. Everything from the wild and funky to the to the kind of corporate. People talked about purpose, but nobody showed me how I could do it, how to get there. How would I know what it is? Is my purpose my job? A lot of people say my purpose is their purpose is their job, but job is not the whole of life. And I think our purpose is true for us, whatever we're doing, in a way. So what I did was I created a process, 7 questions, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, to help people answer this question, purposeless or purposeful. Before I move on to giving some examples of other people who've gone through the process and who've made this switch from purposeless to purposeful, I just want to ask you a question, really, just for you to imagine for a second. You say, okay, imagine I don't know my purpose. Most people don't. Not in any way that's lucid or clear. and that's normal, I think. How do we make choices? On what basis are we making choices? How do we choose whether we want to do this job or that job? How do we choose a partner or a relationship? How do we choose what to wear? How do we choose where we want to live and how we want to live? How much money we want to earn? If we want to have children, how we treat those children? All these different things in life. Are those decisions based on our education? Is our education who we are? You know, am I this person because I was good at maths or good at physics or chemistry? Is that who I am? How many of those choices are based on what our parents projected onto us? And they projected those things onto us because their parents projected them onto us. And it's normal, but is it us? Are we making those choices out of that place? Are we making choices because our partner or our lover or our wife or our husband or whoever it is wants to see us in a particular way? They feel better if we behave like this. So we make choices and kind of interpret who we are in the world in relationship to all those other people's views. But who are we? So the quality of choices we make when we're subject to all these subjective views from everybody else are essentially purposeless, I would say, because they haven't got our essence, our 8, 9, 10 bit, our best, the thing that we know is compellingly true for us in there. Now imagine for a second that you're purposeful. Whatever your purpose is, just imagine you know it, and you know it completely. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you know exactly what you're about. When you make choices and when you make plans and when you meet a person you want to be with, or when you make business or career choices, you make them because they speak to you on an inner level, they speak to your values, they express your gifts, and they express the contribution you're most inspired to make in the world. How do you feel about life now? Is it something to get through? Is it a series of problems to solve? Or does it feel like an adventure? Do you walk differently? Do you talk differently? Do you look after your personal health in a different way? Are your relationships improved? Is the way you communicate improved? Will anything stop you? Whatever your answers are as you muse these thoughts and questions are basically a window, an insight into how you are when you're purposeful. Is that a constant process? Once you've found your purpose, are you purposeful every day of your life? You can be, yes, because you have a yardstick, a way to make a choice every day. So purposeful people, what do they get? Well, they get really clear because they know who they are. They have a quiet confidence. Not because they're saying, I'm fantastic and I'm amazing, but because they're saying, I know what I want to do, and I know how I want to give myself to the world. I often bring this example. I think it's kind of quite interesting. A lot of people talk about confidence. They want confidence. They really want to have. The world will be better. They would be better at their jobs. They would earn more money. They would be better at all the things they do if they had more confidence. As if it's a commodity, is something you have. You know, a lot of water or a little water, a lot of money or a little money. Confidence as a commodity. But I don't think confidence is a commodity. I think confidence is a result of things. You know, you play football, you score 50 goals in a season, and you become confident as a goal scorer. You stand up and give presentations, and once you've given 20 presentations, you've had great feedback, you become confident in that. It's a result of something. So I say to people, well, if, just taking this example of giving a talk, if you were going to give a talk, how would you feel? A lot of people say, well, you know, I'd be nervous. You know, there was a survey in the States saying people's biggest fear in the world was public speaking. And the second biggest fear in the world was death, apparently. So death by public speaking would be a bit of a mind blower. So I said, well, look, why are people afraid? Why do you feel nervous when you stand up and you're giving a talk? And I said, because everybody's looking at me and I feel self-conscious. Okay, completely understand that. So then I say to people, if you were walking down the street and there was somebody, an elderly person, who falls over just near you and is hurt, and you rush over to help them, everybody in the street and everybody in all the shops might be looking at you, more so than when you're giving a talk. But do you feel self-conscious? Do you feel nervous in that place? And they go, no, of course not. I said, why not? They said, because all I'm doing is focused on helping this person. And I said, that's the difference. When somebody is purposeful, when someone is really purposeful, they are actively contributing to their world or the world, whichever one you want to focus on. They're helping that person and they're giving of themselves, but they're giving the best of themselves and they're giving the best to themselves. And because of that, they're not really interested in whether they're confident or not confident. They have this natural clarity, conviction, and commitment to the moment, which doesn't require this end result of confidence all the time. So this inner knowing and self-belief is something that they carry and walk around with them. So I put some pictures down here of purposeful people, and then I'll give some examples of other people who've been through this process, and we can talk through that. So Gandhi, the Mahatma, one of my personal heroes, who pretty much single-handedly kicked the British Empire out of India without shaking a fist. Pretty spectacular achievement. Purposeful, I would say so. But then, this guy was so scared of people when he was at school. He was so shy that when he left school, he would run home from school every day in case somebody talked to him. Does that sound like the kind of guy who would kick the British Empire out of India? No. But he had purpose. And his purpose was stronger than his fear. So he went beyond his fear and served his purpose. And you see that picture on the left because of the results that he achieved. So the next picture is Muhammad Ali, another purposeful person, extraordinarily purposeful, and totally different to Gandhi, but with the same indomitable spirit. Here's the man who turned around to the US government and said, I'm not going to war. And he was the icon of a warrior on the planet. He was the fighter. He said, I'm not going to war. He said, and he went to court, and they stripped him of his license, and they took all his money away, and they tried to break him. And he said, look, my beliefs, spiritual beliefs say, thou shalt not kill. And so do yours. He said, but I'm sticking to mine. That's somebody who's very purposeful, I would say. The third picture is this guy, Jeremy Gilley. He's a friend of mine who discovered one day there's never been a single day of global ceasefire in the history of the planet. So not one day where somebody hasn't left the house in order to kill somebody else in an organized fashion. And he said, well, maybe it's about time we had one. One day, when nobody goes to war with anybody else. So he said, I'm going to try and make one. And he left school when he was 16. He had 2 O-levels, one in woodwork and one in drama. He was very dyslexic. He had no money. How does this guy achieve his goal of having 24 hours on the planet where nobody goes to war? He spent 2 years working out of his old bedroom in his mother's house. He had a telephone and he had a computer. And he talked to heads of state around the world, business leaders, sports people, religious leaders, you name it. Anybody he could get hold of who was influential. 6 days before the September the 11th bombings, the United Nations unanimously declared September the 21st every year to be Peace One Day, Global Ceasefire Day. This man changed the world, and he did it with less available to him than anybody on this call. Since then, 500 million children a year mark the day. There are concerts all around the world. There's virtually no column inches in the press, but he's changing the world. He's brokering peace agreements, etc. These people are strong, prominent people. There are millions whose pictures will never appear, but have the same connection with life. They know why they're here and they do it. So there's a fourth space here on this page. And I wonder if it's anybody here. And that's what we're here to talk about, in a way. But I guess the question is, do we have to change the whole world? And I think the answer is no, we don't. But we can change our world. Somebody who went through this program came out with a purpose statement. I serve the purpose of passionate compassion, which I think is beautiful. He expresses that in his work, in his relationship with his children, in his relationship with himself, everywhere. Now, he works for Procter & Gamble. He was fast-tracked on their management program because who wouldn't want to have a manager who was passionately compassionate? I worked with somebody else who went through the process. He said, I serve the purpose of faithfully caring for those around me. And he was deeply touched by his purpose statement. He now turns out that he's an actor's agent, and he looks after a stable of 60 actors. He joined the business at a time where it was in huge decline. It was under threat. He became an agent, and he is surfing. He's got a body of people who he faithfully cares for. He loves every minute of it. They love him. They are very successful, nurtured by him and him nurtured by them. And, he's going great guns. He's basically started his own department, a very well-established agency, and, he'll be one of the agents that rocks the world, and he's doing it because he's serving his purpose. I worked with somebody else who said, I serve the purpose of realizing unlimited potential. Amazing. So he was working for a big corporate, found his soul being stifled by it, set up his own business, went to the brave new world of entrepreneurship, is now working very successfully in that area, but at the same time he's a competition cyclist, and realizing unlimited potential applies to there as well. It applies to the way he expresses himself with his son, in his relationships, etc. My wife's purpose is, I serve the purpose of growing love. How do you think that makes her as a mother? She also happens to be a business MBA. So when she applies herself to the business, and you bring all that intelligence and learning, but you also bring that beautiful heart, bringing love to it, what kind of ideas do you think she comes up with? Another chap I work with is the last person I talk about before we'll start to move on to how you do it. Said, I serve the purpose of artistic living. He's a lawyer, an international lawyer, as far away from artistic living as you could get, really, except that he loves to paint. However, once he started applying his purpose in his work, in the law, he realized that actually he could bring all his creativity into that place. So he started to develop all sorts of ways of bringing people together in agreement, whereas previously they would have ended up in court. They get on much better. They have much better relationships with the people that they are supposed to be in, fighting through the lawyers. They get resolution faster, and he's been made into a judge. So everybody seems to do well out of it. And those are just a handful of the stories. I hope that gives some kind of insight. So the question then becomes, well, how do I find my purpose? What's the process? And I think a lot of people do this. A lot of people do the introspection route. I have to sit in a Tibetan mountaintop for hours, and that's fine. But it takes a long time. It takes a lot of will. You can go to lots of seminars. You can get lucky, get enlightened in an instant. And, I hope that happens to you. That's great. But I have not found an established route to it. So I made one. The purpose process is 7 questions, 7 open questions that are very creative that you answer for yourself. It's an online program. There's video, and then you answer those questions. They work out through those questions what your values are, what your gifts, talents, and abilities are, and what the contribution you're most inspired to make in the world is. Where those 3 places intersect, that's your purpose. At the end of the process, you have it down in 1 sentence, which you know is compellingly true for you, because there are checks and balances all the way through the question process so that you always know if you're 8, 9, 10 out of 10 true to yourself. You align all those areas in one. The process takes 90 minutes to 2 hours, really. About the same amount of time as watching a film. So, when we were talking about this webinar, Daniel and Guy and James asked me, he said, well, what do you get paid to do this? And, well, the truth is I get paid about £5,000 a day to do this for people. Or if I do 2 90-minute seminars for people, and then it's £5,000. It's normally people who are, large organisations who are paying for this. And I do workshops, and it could be anything from, £1,500 to attend a workshop through to, £10,000 or £20,000, depending on who the clients are and how many people. So it's paid for. It's the Robin Hood commerce thing, really. So we started to put together something which was this virtual workshop, which is a webinar series, really, which I'll talk to you about. I wanted to bring in Guy, actually, at this point, who wants to tell you a bit about the work that he did and what he discovered through doing his purpose, and then I will tell you about the rest of this offer. Guy, are you there?
Yeah, hi Richard.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Yeah, I'm terrific. How are you doing? Great talk.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Thank you. So tell me, what happened with you, and what was your purpose, and what did you get from it?
Well, to start with, my purpose is to inspire and teach people to lead extraordinary lives. If I can just quickly sort of tell people how I got to that, a little bit about me. Like you, I've been searching probably for quite a few years, reading loads of books, spending lots of money and spending loads of time, and I stumbled across your book, actually, What's Your Purpose? And within 90 minutes of sitting down and doing it, I had in front of me my purpose statement. And I remember the feeling. I'm sitting in the same place that I actually did it, looking out into my garden, and I remember sort of when I'd finished, a great sense of relief, actually. And it was almost like a huge weight had been taken off my shoulders. And I knew, I'd probably known for a while that I wanted to get involved and help people, but this was just the pivot for me. And within weeks, this is quite radical, but within weeks I'd turned down some work that I was doing that was earning me reasonable money, not taking up an awful lot of my time, and I actually sent you an email, which is brave of me to do something like that, because I'm not that sort of person, and asked to come and see whether I could do some work with you. And as I say, the rest is history. We've put this online and enhanced the book greatly, and the feedback that we've had from people who've been through it is that it really does work, and that it really is a very, very special program that I think that everybody should do.
Well, thank you for sharing that. The guy's been behind putting this virtual workshop together, which starts on the 19th of May. And what happens in the workshop, those are the 4 dates, you should be able to see those now, is in the first session, we say, well, preparing for doing your purpose, what are the questions that keep on coming up for people before they do the 7 questions? You know, is purpose my job? Is it possible for a purpose to change throughout life? Do you have more than one purpose? If I find my purpose, does that mean I'm going to have to throw everything out and start again, etc.? All those things, and we deal with those kind of key questions. Those are the basically the static, if you like, that's around the message. So we dispel that. Then you do the 7 questions. And once you come back from doing the 7 questions, we start to investigate your answers. Because there's a ton of information in all the answers that you give, because it's such a wonderful creative process. And then we move that into the final session, into living your purpose. So how do you take it forward? How do you live it and boldly go where no one has gone before? So basically, live your purpose on a day-to-day basis, walk the talk. I mean, so many of the questions that came through before this seminar is, I know what I want to do, but I don't know how to do it. And I don't know how to have the courage to do it. So that's, I mean, I'm going to aim to answer some of those things tonight if we've got time. But essentially, that's what the 4th session is about. So you should have the timings there. Everything is recorded afterwards. That's available to people for a certain amount of time after each session. And there's loads of stuff. We're giving too much. We're giving so much away. So basically, what we're doing is these bonuses are the people who come on the webinar series, the virtual seminar. They get the 7 questions that is on Life Purpose HQ. So they get to go through that process. They get a book. They get the book or the audio series, and they also get all the MP3s through Q&A. So I'm just going to flick through these. So we just talked about that. So then the big question is, what's the damage, really? How much does it cost? Well, the package has been quoted as costing over £1,000, but we're doing £97 for a limited number of people. And I guess the question is, why do that? Why not try and sell it for £1,000 or £5,000? I don't have any qualms about selling this for £5,000 or £10,000. And if you say, Rich, I completely insist on paying 5 or 10 grand, I'll say, all right, you're the boss. And I'm used to charging those sort of fees, but you know what? I want a critical mass of people on the planet to be living their purpose. I've seen the changes that it makes in people. I know that you can't give it away free, because if you give it away free, people don't value it, which means they don't value what they're discovering for themselves. But if we were to charge £10,000 to do it, people would either have to save up for a few years, or you'd only be getting to very wealthy people. And I know that in order to create a shift on the planet, if you've got 10 people in a room, and 3 of those people, 4 of those people are living their purpose, the dynamic in the room is completely different to if those 3 or 4 people are not living their purpose. And if you multiply that out on the planet, by the time you and I shuffle off this mortal coil, the world will be a different place. And I want to witness it. So if you'd like to join us for this webinar series, all the details, Daniel, am I right? They can through you or through the URL that's on the screen?
Yeah, absolutely, Richard. All you have to do listening right now, go to lifepurposehq.com/offer, and you can actually get your seat on that webinar series right now. I just want to say there is a limited amount of spaces because Richard does coaching as well. So there is, he will be looking after you. This is only offered tonight, and I want to explain to you how we ended up offering this. First of all, Richard, I really want to thank you. I've been literally in meditation all the time, listening to you. I felt my whole life slowed down and got into focus just listening to you. I was so hyped up before we got started from a busy day, and I also want to share how Guy and Richard and myself all fit into this. I know Guy from many years ago when we did property deals together. And Guy met me and said, Dan, I want to learn internet marketing. And Guy came to us and joined the Inner Circle Mastermind group with 3 different business ideas. And when he talked about, one was a software program he wanted to support, one was lead generation for property, and I hope guys okay with me sharing that. And the third one, he mentioned that he met this Richard Jacobs person. And I noticed immediately when guys spoke about Richard that his whole physiology changed, his eyes lit up, his energy was on peak, and I just knew that is what he had to do. So James and myself, we supported Guy and helped him to get this message, his purpose, onto the internet. And we do everything we can to help Guy and Richard spread their message. And some people have asked questions in the question box, and they said, Daniel, what is your purpose and how did you end up doing it? I have to, and I sit like Guy, I sit in the exact same spot in my house right now, looking at the garden as well, where I did the purpose test about, it is literally less than 3 months ago. And I was worried, I was afraid to do the test. And when Richard goes through the first week of coaching, it is a common emotion, because I was worried that my purpose would be different to what I do and I had to change my life. I was worried that what I was doing right now, I would have to stop and change and become someone else. But all of that was really nothing to worry about. What I ended up with is that I serve the purpose of creating harmony and lead people to live happier lives. Now I
High
got
five.
that. Thank
I
you.
wish there was a high five thing you could do over the phone. High five.
It is something that just rings true. Every word in your purpose statement will be significant, and you cannot leave one out. You cannot replace a single one.
Yeah.
Every one of those words has got meaning and gravity. And for me, it was like Guy, a relief to have this down in a sentence. Shortly after, I wrote my book called My Journey and the Machine. And of course, the purpose made so much sense with that, because I knew now that it made sense. It was such a vague notion of, yeah, I want to, most people confuse it with a goal and say, yeah, I want to make some money, or I want to have time or freedom. It cannot be that. It is very personal, very emotional. And whenever you hear someone else's, you think like, wow, that is so on the button. This is so so right. So I just wanted to share it with you guys listening, because many of you know what I'm about. And for me, leadership, helping, creating harmony and happiness, and all in one sentence is just really absolutely amazing. I would say to anyone out there, if you are in the slightest doubt of which direction you want to take in your life, or if you want to have confirmation of what you feeling or guessing, please make that decision right now. Go to lifepurposehq.com/offer. Richard is, for the first time, offering this in a 4-week webinar. He will be there coaching you just like he did today. And I really wish, when I did my process, I was nervous doing it. I wish somebody had prepared me for it, and I wish somebody had helped me with the answers after. And I believe what we put together with the online process and the coaching program will be even more profound, even more meaningful, and more helping you to change life, change direction. And when Richard earlier said, can we or do we have to change the world? I almost wanted to butt in and say, the moment you have purpose, the world is a different place.
Yeah, definitely.
It is a different place for you,
Yeah.
because you see everything differently. It is the same subjective world, but you see it very, very differently. And this is really, for me, was the biggest breakthrough. I want to hand it back to you, Richard, and I want to actually also encourage for all the people who are still on the call. By the way, it is an incredible webinar. We had only like 2 or 3 people disappear. Everyone else is still on here. So I would love you to let me know, is there anything you want to ask Richard? Any question I can pass on to him? Anything
Yes,
that
I'd
you
love
can
to
ask
hear if
that
there are
can help
any.
you.
Yes, Guy, saying that there are. Yes, I think this is a really nice thing that we talked about before. Actually, just going back to this. Oh God, that's gone off. Going back to this offer, that we're giving away 2 licenses as well. So when people go through the webinar, you have the option. Let's say you've gone through the webinar series. You can say, okay, you know what? I really want my partner to go through this, and I really want somebody else to go through this, and you can give them the opportunity to do the 7 questions as well. So, you know, pay it forward kind of thing. And it's part of our move for to develop purposeful community, really. I mean, as Guy and I were talking about the other day, you say, you know, you go into a dinner party and everybody says, you know, what do you do for a job? What do you do for a living? And you have a usual blah, blah chat. But if you go to the dinner party and you say, what's your purpose? How different is that conversation? How much more fascinating? So with a bid to help that happen, there are 2 free licenses that are given away for anybody who comes to onto the program. So any questions for us?
Richard, do you mind going back? Yeah, it's good if you go back to the page. So if anybody's interested in grabbing one of those seats on Richard's webinar series, then please go to lifepurposehq.com/offer. That'd be awesome. So there's one question here from Leslie that says, "Can I have the 7 questions right now?" So,
well, it would be if I would physically be able to rattle through these 7 questions right now, but you wouldn't be able to answer them or digest them right now. It takes time. You know, you get your life purpose in 90 minutes to 2 hours. There's nothing. There are people who spend 20, 25 years addressing the problem, addressing the question. So if I gave you these questions now, there's one thing is knowing the questions, another way is how we answer them. Every question you answer, you have to give what I call the yes factor. You have to answer, what is this thing? How much does this thing say yes to me on a scale of 1 to 10? If I'm asking sometimes some pretty deep and complicated questions, or not really complicated but profound, so there are ways of answering that question which help you get to the answer, which you know is authentic, blending words and phrases and sentences and coming up with things which are more profound. So the answer is, physically I could do it, but you know, you don't whip up a gourmet meal in 2.5 minutes in a way. I love your enthusiasm. Does my voice keep on going off? Because I think there's batteries going on my phone. I could switch the voice.
No, I can still hear you fine. Edith said, Edith Geisler, who is from Austria. So hello to Österreicher and Edith. She said the link doesn't work. Can we just check that the link is working? A couple of people said yes, I'm in. So some people might have already been there to secure their seat. But can we just double check, maybe James or Guy, if that link is working?
Okay.
If that is fine. Leslie said, look, I didn't want to answer them right now. I want to do them later. Leslie, from my experience is, I mean, there is obviously Richard's book is available. You can buy that. You can do the process online on Life Purpose HQ as well. What we offer today, though, is a coaching program around it at almost the same price as just the test by itself, and you get 2 licenses for the test that you can give away. So in essence, the coaching program Richard does is kind of free, thrown in, so to say.
Yeah, exactly.
So, there's also one person, Grant, asked a question, said we're having a baby on the 17th. Congratulations, Grant. It's absolutely brilliant news. Can we still do the process? Absolutely, Grant, because every webinar is recorded, and Richard said it will be up for a limited time. It is up forever in your membership site. It's lifetime access. It will be up within 48 hours. So you will be able to access the information after as well. and also people from that group can be talking to each other and help each other as well.
Also, the other thing is that, mate, you're not going to be sleeping for the next 6 months, so you're going to have plenty of time to think about this.
There's a question from Amer. Amer said,
Yeah.
Guy said he read the book and had its life purpose within 2 hours. How is the webinar series different? But I say a few words, and obviously Richard, who actually runs the webinar series, there's a lot more preparation and coaching to make sure you get the most out of the questions, and also Richard will help you interpret the answers and then how to take that purpose and really live it. Because one of the frustrations I know that Richard has shared is that people do discover their purpose, but then don't quite know how to translate it into their life. So it ends up to be a little bit like a mantra that they know about, but don't know how to use or how to translate. So there's a lot in there.
I mean,
yes.
the only other thing I'd say to that is I wrote down a process in a book, and yes, people find their purpose through it, and it works. There's no doubt about it. I get emails and stuff all the time from people who've gone through. The difference is, though, that I've trained so many people, I've taken so many people through the process personally, that what I can't do in a book is give everybody the nuance that's going to help them and bring the best out of them, because I have to write the process down in the book in a way that is more general for people. So what I'm looking to do in the webinar series is to give personal attention, to bring all the experience of those other people to each individual, if that makes sense.
Totally. I mean, for me, the main reason why I will join this webinar series is I've done the purpose test, but I want to benefit from Richard's coaching. I want to benefit from being able to listen to him, talk to him, answer my questions, and go deeper into how to live my purpose with even more clarity. And anyone who's done the test, I mean, I know there's Phil Turner. Phil is on the call tonight. Actually, Phil, I wonder if I can find you in the list of all the people here. Phil Turner, there he is. Let's just see if I can unmute Mr. Turner. Phil, can you hear me? It's a bit of a surprise now. Phil, are you there? Don't know if that's going to work. I just unmuted him. He might be scrambling around for a microphone now at home.
Yeah.
Let me just see if he types something in.
Well, Phil was the guy who asked me why do I still have this dodgy goatee? And
I think it's the same person. Phil? Okay. No, I can't hear Phil. He's not speaking to us. He might be muted. Are you still there, Richard? Or did your phone run out of battery now?
Hello? Can you
Hello?
hear me?
Yes, I can. Who is
Hi,
that?
can you
Is
hear
that
me?
guy? Yeah,
It's
who is
Richard,
that?
sorry. It's
Oh, Richard. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I lost power on my phone, so I had to come in another way.
Okay, brilliant. So you joined us in a different way. Great,
Yeah.
great.
So where were we? Did we manage to get Phil back on the line?
No, we tried to. So I think I unmuted Phil, but it looks like he's not able to talk to us. While I do that, I just want to read out some of the feedback we had from Daniel Blackmore. Said, thank you so much, great webinar, very meditative in itself, and you guys are certainly conducting it right. Congratulations, making this so accessible. And I think this is something I never even tried before. To see if people on my list who listen to my wealth creation information are interested in stuff like this as well, and it looks like people are. So we got a lot of great feedback on that.
Okay, excellent. Are there any other questions or
No, mainly thank yous coming through. There is one. Allison says, Allison Riches, can I give this as a gift to someone else by buying it online for them tonight? And I believe the answer is a resounding yes, of course. And I think that's a wonderful present. I think I would be delighted if somebody gave me as a present. Alison, why don't you do it for yourself and that person? Give yourself a present, give yourself a gift
She
as
did,
well.
Alison. Alison's done through it. She was wonderful.
Oh, excellent. Oh, yeah. No,
Mm.
this is a great idea, Alison, actually. That's maybe an idea. There's a couple of people who wrote earlier that they won't be available on the dates given. Unfortunately, it is a one-off only. So the opportunity is kind of now with that. So, but maybe you want to, like Alison, give it, gift it to someone who you believe can benefit from that experience.
Mm. She's fab, Alison. She does the House of Colours coaching and took me through the colour work and really knows her stuff. So a great person for you to chat to and have on a webinar another day, I would
Um,
suggest.
Alison, I know that, I mean, you've done the test. Is there maybe a chance I can unmute you? Let's see if that works. Alison, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Oh,
Oh, hello.
perfect. That's amazing. Alison, do you want to share maybe what your experience was with doing Richard's life purpose test or process?
Yes, it took me an hour and a quarter, and it's the best hour and a quarter of my time I have ever spent in my entire life.
Wow.
And it's made me very focused on my life purpose. And I was well on my way with my purpose, but what it did was just gave it the biggest energy boost and focused me, and everyone around me's noticed the difference. So it's the best money I've ever spent.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Richard, we have a question here from John Grant. Can
Thank
you
you, Alison.
please show the dates once more? So can you flip one slide back so we
Yep.
can see the dates?
Okay, hang on a sec.
It's literally starting on the 19th of May from my memory and runs for the next 4 weeks. So yes, that's it really,
There you go.
19th of,
19th, 26th.
and then in June the 2nd and the 9th. Always the same day. If you should have to miss one of the events, then obviously there are recordings. Alison, thank you so much for sharing that. And
Thank you,
I
Alison.
didn't connect, first of all, Alison, with the lady who has recently come to visit me from the House of
Yes.
Color. So I just saw when I browsed over your name, it showed your full name and your email address as well. So lovely. Thanks so much for sharing that. Anybody else who wants to share, or anybody else in that group tonight who's already done Richard's process and wants to share tonight? Because that is quite enlightening as well.
Um, if we're waiting for something else to come through and we've got another few minutes, there were some of the questions that were sent through previously, and I'd be happy to have a look at some of those, if that's okay. So somebody says, will the life purpose I discovered using your method stay the same, or can it change over time? Well, my experience with that is that it doesn't change. The way we understand it deepens, but the actual purpose doesn't really change. You might refine the wording of it a little bit, you might chunk it down, but in essence, it's the same thing. I mean, as a metaphor, you say, well, you know, the way what you're doing is really you're discovering a diamond within, and when you look at a diamond, it looks like every facet of the diamond is a different color, but by the light shines through it, but it's always the same diamond. So what we do is we discover a first facet of the diamond when we do the purpose process, and then later on, as we mature with it, we discover other facets of it. It's always the same diamond, but we're just seeing more parts of it. So, but a really nice question. I've got Phil Turner's question. Have you still got that goatee? Yes, I do. And Phil's just jealous because he can't grow a beard. Then I've got this other one, which is, what's your best tip to overcome procrastination? Which I know is fear-based. And I'm tempted, the cheeky part of me is tempted to say, I'll tell you tomorrow. But that's probably not very funny. So,
very funny. Yeah.
so, but the truth is, I think it's a great question, actually, overcoming procrastination. When I sat down, when I got somebody offered me contract to write the book. I didn't seek it out. And one of the reasons I didn't seek it out is because when I was a kid, I was dyslexic. And being dyslexic meant that I overcame it and everything else, but I was left with this fear of being judged for writing things down. So I had a book contract, but suddenly I was writing stuff down and going to be judged for it, and I found it terrifying. But the purpose was more important to me than the fear. And even though I was procrastinating, I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to do this because it serves the purpose 8, 9, 10 out of 10. And whatever happens, I'm going to write this book. And if I have to do it by hand and then hand it out to somebody in the street and then come back in and do it by hand and hand it out to somebody in the street, I'll do it. And after then, the fears and the areas, the parts of me that would procrastinate stopped. So in answer to the question, you know, how do you overcome procrastination? Well, when the thing that you're trying to achieve is so motivating and consistently motivating that it becomes bigger than your fear, then procrastination just dissolves.
Nice.
There are loads more
There's
we could go all night, I think.
a question from Bridget, who has signed up for the course, so looking forward having you on the course. Bridget, she said, is there any preparation work necessary before the webinar series, or does it literally start with the first webinar on the 19th?
Yeah, it starts with the first webinar. I mean, I don't like to give people the questions beforehand because it's much better to do them than just to kind of read them, if you like. I want to take people's questions as they come, fresh and real for episode 1, for the first one of the 4, and then to look at people's answers in more depth as they come. So no, nothing to do, just turn up and rock and roll.
There's actually a lady on the call, Sati Punglia. Sati said she's done the purpose test, so let's get Sati. Let's see if we can unmute Sati. I hope she's okay with that. Get another spontaneous testimonial here. Sati, can you hear us?
I can, Daniel.
Wow, this is excellent. I love
Hi,
that. I've never
Sati.
done that before, just
Hi.
unmute random people. So Sati, you've done Richard's purpose process as well. How did it work out for you? And do you remember, or do you know your purpose?
I do. I done it actually just after the retreat weekend and things. And I was really, I was surprised and not surprised. What surprised me is at how accurate it was, because my purpose is to inspire and motivate others to be all that they can and want to be. And it's something that I've always said, is that I want to inspire and motivate people. And things. So I was amazed at how accurate it was. But from my aspect, I think what I would really recommend is that if people feel that something, your gut tells you that something's not right and that you're not happy about something and you just need a bit of clarity, that's where I found it really helped me, because once I sort of had that purpose, even though I really knew it deep down, it really helped me sort of clarify and rejiggle stuff so that I was then working in harmony with what I really wanted to do. And actually I've just found that I'm happier doing that.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you, Sati. So Phil Turner is around. I know that he's written questions and answers. I don't know if I don't think we can get him online.
I think there's one more question here which I'd just like to say, just to address quickly, and then I think we'll probably have to wrap it up actually. But there's a question here that comes up quite a lot, which is somebody saying they're 55 and somebody else saying they're older than that. Is there still purpose in life for people who are more mature in years, even after a long search? And I said, if you can hear this, if your heart is still beating, then there's still time to live it purposefully, consciously. The truth is, someone's 60 years old, they could live for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. How do they want to live those 10, 20, 30 years? And 10 years spent on purpose may outweigh 20 years spent purposeless. You know, they say that we have that every living being has approximately 1 billion heartbeats in a single lifetime, which is, I think, is extraordinary. And my question is, upbeat or downbeat? If we've just got one more day left to live on the planet, wouldn't it be better to live it purposefully? So I think it's never too early to start. The youngest person I've worked with is 14,
Wow.
and it's never too late. You know, you're still here. There's more joy to experience. There's more to give. There's more of ourselves to discover. There's more of the world to explore and exploit. You know, it's an adventure.
Excellent. Richard, I really want to thank you for taking the time out this evening, and I want to just address everyone still listening out there, and some great feedback coming in. Just let us know how this was for you, this experience tonight, and we got some great feedback here from Sophie and John Grant. Phil Turner has written back and said life purpose was the biggest aha moment of his life, so that is quite a very serious kind of feedback, so that's amazing. Everybody else, we know we had quite a few orders through already. Thank you very much for committing to finding your purpose. You're doing that for yourself, but I know making that step, and I understand if you are still sitting on the fence, but here's my simple request for you. This is a one-off opportunity to work with Richard personally over 4 weeks, discovering and deepening and exploring your life purpose, and also having the real benefit of being coached by Richard is an amazing gift really that he's offering us tonight. So anybody who's even remotely thinking about it, I would ask you to jump over to lifepurposehq.com/offer and join us when we start next week on our 4-week journey together. So Richard, closing words from me. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for spending the time with us tonight, and also making us look at life differently. Just sharing those different thoughts was just amazing. And we got some great feedback here from Oliver, who actually signed up. Oliver from Germany. Margaret just saying thank you so much, food for thought. And awesome guys. Great feedback here from everybody who's on the webinar.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. And I think that, you know, the circle of people you've attracted in your circle are great, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much, and hopefully we'll know each other for a long time.
Absolutely. So all the best, everybody. It's been amazing. It's been so different. I feel very different than after our usual marketing webinars, I have to say. And if I judge it very honestly, I think I feel better. I feel better. So I think it is maybe more in line with my true purpose, running webinars about life purpose than it is about how to drive traffic to different websites. But that is just my personal experience tonight. Thank you, everyone. Thank you especially for all the guys who were able to give spontaneous testimonials that we just pulled out of the group here. Sati, of course, Guy, who has helped Richard to bring this message to more people. Of course, everybody else, and James for in the background helping with answering all the questions. It's been a pleasure. It's been great running this webinar. Almost so great I don't want it to stop, but I'm gonna stop it right now. Thanks guys. Any more questions, shoot them over to us. Join us on the program. We can really make sure that you get to the answer to that pertinent question. What is it all about? What is your life purpose all about? And I look forward to seeing you guys on the webinar next week. All the best, and we'll speak soon.